So today we're going to be taking a look at completing Tier 5 dungeons between Tier 5.0 up to Tier 5.3. Armor requirements are not terribly high. You just need a comprehensive build that either provides sustain, damage to heal yourself with. Roast is required. It is suggested to use gigapots if you're using plate, because if you're using a tank weapon, you can use the MP on the weapon, which is pretty beneficial. Additionally to that, if you're using mace like I am, you can use the carry-on cape, and it'll provide you with an extra swing. With my maces currently, it provides 2200 damage, so it's quite a lot. Granted, as you see inside the video here, the mage right there only took 455. That's because of damage mitigation, but even still, it hits pretty hard. The passives that you get from the E are super helpful. So with breakers, in my opinion, are probably one of the easiest weapons to solo with. There are a few different builds that you can run. There's Hunter's Cape, or sorry, not Hunter's Cape. There is Hunter's Jacket, I believe it's called, which provides you with a attack speed bonus and damage bonus. Super great. If you use your E with that on Oathbreakers, you can heal yourself for roughly 1700 points, assuming you're in like the 1700 bracket with your weapon. This current build that I'm using, it isn't suggested to do Tier 5 dungeons solo until you're at least Tier 6, and you can afford Tier 6.3. Making sure that you're in 0.3 gear is kind of important, especially if you're a solo casual player. This entire guide is entirely built around being a solo casual player, and with that said, you should keep in mind that everything that I'm doing is to gain fame and, financial benefits via myself and only myself. So if you are a casual player and this is how you like to play, this guide is for you, and if not, feel free to click off and go find something else. With that said, we're going to be looking at kind of my strategies here. So as you can see, my health points stay pretty high, and then the fame, it's pretty great too. Keep a watch on that fame number right there that just showed up. There are going to be some massive increases. Roughly per hour, you can do 1.2 million fame to probably 2.2 million fame solo if you're running Tier 5s. Currently, my highest that I've ever gained was about 2 million in an hour. But that's great. That's great fame, especially considering you're safe. You're getting almost black zone fame. You're able to use your gear, and you can have infinite resets, so you kind of have your own thing going. And the reason why I say you have infinite resets is because you're doing your own maps. Try to go to a place that's kind of desolate. What I mean by that is, if there's a lot of players in the zone, you probably should swap zones. And the reason is because you don't want people coming in behind you on your maps while you're solo. It's really counterproductive if they decide to steal your dungeon for you. But that's really the only downfall to doing maps, but I've never encountered anybody that's tried to steal my dungeons before. And the one time that I think that it did happen, I was running Deathgivers, so they couldn't out-DPS me, and it was just silly. Anyways, right here with this boss, with all bosses actually, you should pay attention to their mechanics. If they have a channeled mechanic that is a single target or ST, you should make sure that you are interrupting that skill alone. So save your interrupts for that. In order to solo and to be, extremely effective with 0 deaths, so that way you have no repair fee when you're going back into town, you just need to make sure that you are always properly interrupting. I cannot stress that enough. There are so many times that I've seen even groups try to clear stuff like this, and just because they're not interrupting or following the mechanics as they're supposed to, their entire party's wiping. While with one player, the mechanics are minimalized. There's not as much going on in the map, so you can kind of avoid stuff a lot easier, especially if you have heals. And not to swap topics here really quick, but I think another portion in one of the video clips is about to come up, and it's going to show some interesting information about the different lines and how you can tier yourself up and increase your item power rather quickly. So as you can see here, I have about almost 50 out of 100 on these lines. The other ones, they're at 20. You can see the fame cost right there is 116, and you get 0.2 item power. This right here is about 50,000 fame, and you get 0.1 per tier. So it's actually better to go ahead and tier up lower at this point. So when you're doing your weapons after you went 100 out of 100 already, you need to start tiering up, but you need to tier up in kind of like a focused manner. You really don't want to get caught up in pushing one line to 100. The reason why I say that is because if you're trying to push a line to 100, you're going to end up spending a ton of fame. And if it's not the primary weapon you're using, what's the point in spending a ton of fame on that single one line when you could be pushing it equally to all lines? So just keep that in mind. The item power bonuses are super important. It's very important that you're always climbing. I can climb roughly 3 to probably 25 IP a day, depending on how hard I push. I'm always switching my lines up, so like I'm always going back down to like 1700 again, and it kind of is just on me to make sure that I'm keeping my Fame Gainz back up again. Another thing to pay attention to is while you're doing this, you also get rewards towards your challenges each month. So it's just something good to do. If you're casual, you're watching Netflix while you do this, as you can see, it's not stressful at all. You can do that, and the rewards from those are pretty decent. So like as you can see, I have my second tier. When it unlocks on the 8th, it's going to unlock immediately. So I'll be able to cash out on anything from there. And that's usually about an extra like 200,000 fame that you get from that, just from the books alone that it gives you. So just something to pay attention to. So with like archers and mages, just make sure that you're staying away from their AoEs. You're going to see me taking care of some mobs real fast, I think. But when I get back over that boss, you're going to see how the boss kind of gets stuck in the corner, and all I'm doing is just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You just dodge the mechanics. I can't stress it enough. And you just utilize your damage mitigations as a single target type of skills. So like when they're auto-attacking, you need to use your defensives. When they are doing a charged single target attack, if you cannot interrupt it, you need to use defensive. If you do that, bosses usually do not do enough damage to kill you. Really the major killers for most players are AoE-based stuns, the knockbacks. Like if you've got a boss that just does repeated knockbacks and you're a good player, chances are you're not going to have enough DPS to take that boss down if you're not able to stay on top of it as much as you'd like to be. So give it just a moment. I'm going to let it kind of go ahead and skip ahead a little bit, and I will come back to this video. Now we're on that boss again, and basically what we see here is I'm using my defensives on the single target, dodging the AoEs, I'm moving back and forth, just kind of shuffling. One of my tactics that helps me kind of outperform the bosses, but keep the damage going, but also keep the heals and the MP drain coming, is as soon as I click onto an area, as soon as I'm out of the AoE range, I'm pressing spacebar to immediately go back to auto-attacking. And what that does is a few things. It keeps your damage per second up, it keeps your damage per hit up, it also keeps your heals up, it keeps your MP up, but on top of that, it locks you into place a lot quicker. And it'll help you focus back onto that boss. So it makes using like my Q a lot easier to kind of like put it inwards. It also makes it easier for my W to focus back on the boss, because my character's already facing the boss and not moving anymore, and I'm mitigating the time that I'm running. So all of those things play into major advantage, but as you can see, the boss barely does any damage as long as you're avoiding all of those things and then you're doing the interrupts when you're supposed to. That single target blast will hit pretty hard. Some of the bosses that you really should make sure that you are either mitigating on or just skipping are going to be like your knife-based bosses if you're doing the heretic dungeons. If you are doing Keeper dungeon, you're probably not going to get through Daughter. Daughter is really hard. I struggle with her still with 8.3 and being close to 1750. She's just really hard. She hits super hard. The AoE range is extremely large, and on top of that, when it hits you, it takes out 1k of your HP. So I'm back onto another mini boss right here. This is another archer. Archers are extremely easy. Mages are very easy as well. Just make sure you stay out of his AoEs. Your melee bosses, such as like your axe user, if it's a heretic, not heretic, keepers, they are extremely easy. You just need to make sure that you have your purifies. That's the reason why I'm running the Helm of Valor. Not only does it purify, but it cleanses too. So if I have a negative debuff on me, I can cleanse it off me, or alternatively, I can purge one of the boss's buff if they're raging or something. Very beneficial, but at the same time, it also works as a buff and debuff, so I can get both those benefits at the same time too. One of the reasons why I am running the Valor Plate Armor is because the interrupt with damage mitigation with silence is super overpowered, and it's very useful against multiple teams of monsters. It will stop them from casting, it'll stop them from utilizing their mechanics, and it's just an all-around great thing to be clutch and to kind of mitigate issues. So I think we're about to look at the Destiny board again, and I am still trying to 100 out of 100 my final armor line, and once I finish doing that, you see that little yellow fame to the top right there next to Auto-Repec. If you have 100 out of 100 and you're wearing that armor and gear, your fame will roll directly into that. If you're running the Satchel with the boosted fame, if you're getting a faction fame boost, all in all, if you're doing 5.0, every monster should be about 7,000 to 8,000 fame per monster, going directly into your bonus fame. And the cool thing about that is every point that goes in there is actually equating to 2 points of mob fame or combat fame. So it's pretty strong if you pump directly from 100 lines into that. Right now, we are currently inside of a 5.3, and we are attempting to reset these mobs because there was, I think there's a third one there, and they're pretty hard. They're 84% stronger than they normally are, so they have a base of 15,478 HP, and they hit like trucks. It's probably suggested to only attempt this with like tier 7.3 or higher gear. If you're a tier 8 user, honestly I suggest just investing into an 8.3 set. You'll love it. It'll help you clear stuff a lot quicker. It'll provide you great damage mitigation, but on top of that, it'll just provide you the ability to have that casual playstyle that does not require a bunch of people to play with. So as you can see here, basically what I'm doing is I'm stealing them to the ground, I'm keeping one of them away from me, that way it cannot attack me, and I'm just face tanking. That way I can do some damage, and I'm avoiding their mechanics as best as possible. You should always keep in mind, if you're doing content solo or duo with a friend and it's relatively complicated or hard for you guys to complete, keep in mind not to overcommit. You need to go back and reset the mobs. So as you can see here, we didn't overcommit, we just went back after a quick reset, got some cooldowns back up, we also got our HP and MP back up. So it was just an overall beneficial thing for us, it helps us move faster. So sometimes resetting is the best option. Don't ever overcommit, because if you get down, that's not only a death, but that's also a repair. And if you're doing a repair in 8.3, every death is probably going to cost you roughly 100,000 to 200,000, so depending on So with that said, I think that we are going to kill these mages and then we're going to start this boss. The boss has like 50,000 some odd HP, and he hits like an absolute truck. As you can see, the mobs give quite a bit of fame. Quite a bit of fame. I think that per dungeon we're getting like 700,000 combat fame that rolls directly into the bonus fame, the yellow stuff that's inside the Destiny board. So it equates to like 1.4 mil. So every hour we can complete about 2 of these duo. So we get anywhere from like 1.8 up to like 3 million fame once you do all the math for everything. So it's really nice. It's really nice. And again, I can't stress this enough. We are absolutely safe while doing this. There is no gear consequence. There's no death consequence. So everybody thinking that you have to go to a black zone to get black zone fame, that's not true. You just have to increase your relative experience and also your relative combat natures to suit what a tier 8 area would be, and 5.3 is that exactly, just about. So with all those bonus fames and everything, if you're running double DPS, you probably could steamroll this. Another really good build to use is like a bruiser build, so anything with soldier's armor that is a melee weapon is usually pretty good. Death Givers actually perform great with that. If you are a DPS user and you are running the plate, you get an additional 12% negative debuff to HP for enemy mobs, so it's actually really nice. Helps you kind of just kill them quicker. Death Givers performs great if you're running Cultist Shoes and the Cultist Cow. I can't stress that enough. Once you get 100 out of 100 with Cultist, it's just super strong. But as you can see, we are killing this boss here, and it's going to provide like 80,000 fame, I think. So like every boss that we kill, we are basically doubling the fame that we've made. No, I wouldn't say double. We're probably getting an additional third fame to that entire wing of the dungeon. So if a wing gives between 250,000 and 300 to 400,000, we're getting somewhere between like 100,000 or so, like per boss, depending on the complexity. Some bosses, like especially in the undead dungeons, you run into bosses that are actually stacked together. So you get like 50,000, like 54,000, you get 65,000, depending on the boss and the difficulty. So with like the acid spitter boss, with like the Death Giver looking boss, then that like pulls and chains you in, then you'll get about like 100,000 easily. And it's a pretty hard fight, I won't lie. The healer that I had here, he was using a 5.1 staff and a 5.1 celestial. So the heals could be better, and we would have probably been able to steamroll all this content. But 90%, I'd say probably like 95% of the time, they were actually using a bow. So we were just clearing this like DPS, and I was healing us with the Oathkeepers as opposed to healing us a shield. That 3k shield is super clutch, man. It is like comes through so clutch all the time. Again, if you're running the Hunter's Jacket, being able to AoE heal a party for 1700 immediately while dealing damage, while also shielding them for 3000 damage, is super strong. So if you have another person that wants to run Oathkeeper, I could imagine that would be an insanely strong duo. One person running plate, the other one running the Hunter's Jacket. Heal and shield all over the time. That would be like 15 seconds downtime between the both consecutively. So if you're running an MP trait, you never run a mana, never run an HP with a roast, you have a Gigapot. The other guy can even run poisons to increase the damage from the board, and the guys would be absolute monsters. So with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys have any questions, or you guys have any comments, or you guys have any requests for the next video, please let me know. I'll be posting some soldier-based Death Giver content, PvP stuff. I was able to get 17 and 0 inside of an arena with that build. It's super strong. Tons of damage and insane tankiness. So very strong build. post nets. Catch you guys later.